¿Qué tranza, mi gente? We are back here on another episode of LatiNation Football Club. Chiva Mayor, Nik Z y un servilleta Marcelino Ortiz. And my friends, we are so excited because we have so much football this week happening. Hay drama. We got the tea. Tenemos finals, CONCACAF and Champions League ready to define who is the best team in the continent in both instances. Liga MX, la liguilla está caliente. Liga MX Femenil. Guys, we have a banger of a show. But let's start en México. En la
gloriosa Liga MX, aquí en LatiNation.
That's right, my friends. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of LatiNation teams right now competing. We only have Tigres. It's a touchy subject. Chiva will go back to it. But let's talk about Toluca, porque los Diablos se comieron al LAFC ayer. We'll talk about that too later in the show. But let's talk about Toluca, the defending champion, my friends, losing at home with Pachuca.
El bicampeón.
El bicampeón.
I think we saw a tight scoreline coming into this match. I was like, this is going to be a toss-up. These are two very strong teams. I actually thought Toluca was going to have the upper hand, playing at home, being Tolucaing. Was not the case. And now we're heading into the second leg. Imagine this. Pachuca being able to go on with a draw, right? They don't even have to win. So this is going to be like a really defensive match.
They can even lose 1-0.
They can even lose 1-0, right,
yeah.
Because of the seeding, right? We were just talking about that. So who would have saw this coming? I mean, really dramatic opening first leg for them. Losing at home to Toluca, really? After what they've done to my Galaxy, to your LAFC? What?
To all the California teams.
All the California teams.
Los Diablos se comieron a todos los californianos.
Los Angeles. Anyway, you know what?
the altitude.
It's the altitude. Whatever it is, no excuses. We'll talk about it later. Please don't make me cry, Marcelino. You came attacking, Tigres.
Okay, you want to talk about Pumas then? Let's go to
Toluca. ¿Qué pasó,
No, but let me talk a little bit about the game, Toluca versus Pachuca. You know, Toluca, let's say it, Toluca put not the A squad, they put a B team, Paulinho and all the main players winning in the second half to try to, get a goal going on. 1-0, I don't think it's a lot. I think Toluca can come back. They'll be campeón. They have a really, really good team. They have Paulinho makes a huge difference. Another player that in the midfield that is making a difference, that is not being called to La Selección Mexicana, and everybody's very sad. Marcel Ruiz. It's a shame that he's not in the national team. But anyway, we also had this crazy game that I don't really want to talk about it, but I have to. Right? Unfortunately, I got to talk about
Violines.
Hombre, ya tan llevados tan temprano. Look, man, let me tell you something, okay? At least it's our team. It's a LatiNation team that won the game versus Las Gloriosas. Bittersweet. No, bitter. Contra las Gloriosas Chivas Rayadas de Guadalajara. Not an excuse. I'm not making excuses, but come on. Missing 6 starting players makes a huge difference, and we saw it in El Marcador. Tigres was able to put three goals versus 1 contra mis Chivas.
Now, let me take this quickly as a segue to address something that is happening in Liga MX. It's affecting also the CONCACAF Champions League. We are seeing continental tournaments happening at the same time of critical moments of Liga MX and also the beginning of training camps. El dramón que se hizo en México, mi gente, because que juegan los de Toluca, que juegan los de Chivas, y Javier Aguirre said, Nanay, you guys have to be here at the High Performance Center yesterday at 8 p.m. If not, you can kiss your World Cup illusions bye-bye, my friends. After Amaury, the owner of Chivas, very boldly said, if they are going to go play with Toluca for the champions against LAFC, I want my players also for the liguilla. Qué despapalle, Chivas.
Which, by the way, the players from Chivas went back all the way to Guadalajara just to hear that if you don't get here by 8 p.m., you're out of the World Cup. They gotta get el burro, el caballo, el guajolote, el avión más rápido to make it to Ciudad de México. They made it on time, 7:52 p.m. That's everybody was out there, reporters. 7:52, that's when they check in. They almost didn't make it to the World Cup.
Very Mexican of you guys to turn this whole thing into a telenovela. Love it.
La Rosa de Guadalupe.
Even the beginning of the camp. Now, let's move on to the next game. Este va con dedicación y saludo a Luis Cárdenas, the head of programming here at the station. Atlas losing to Cruz Azul at home, my friends. I really thought that Atlas will have a little bit more of an edge. They had something. I think that Cruz Azul shouldn't be too comfortable on the next game. But, Nick, what's your take?
My take is that Cruz Azul did not do what you guys taught me, the word Cruz Azulear. They did not. In fact, doing the exact opposite and coming out on top and playing a very good match when they really needed to do it. So it was actually the opposite of what happened.
It was
against Atlas, the real Guadalajara team, because they play in Guadalajara and you guys play in Zapopan, so you're actually not the real.
Wow.
That's what they do to me with the Galaxy, so I got it.
Oh,
That's what I
my
gotta
God,
do.
Nick.
Because we play in
Una
Carson,
cucharada
so
de
we're the
propio
Carson
chocolate,
Galaxy.
bro.
But just for you to
Just
know,
saying.
the difference
He's
between,
wearing the jersey, so
the
it's
difference
in my
between
face.
Carson and
explain it.
Chivas
Yeah.
is that Carson has never played in Los Angeles, and Chivas has played for 110 years in Guadalajara. That's the difference.
You got him. I'm going to allow that one because that was a deep cut.
Luis
He
paid
got
me
you.
$20 tax.
He got you, yeah. Now,
Wow.
todo el mundo se ríe hasta que te marcan 2 penales en contra. El América,
El grito clásico, penal para el América.
penal para el América. Twice in this game, Pumas de la UNAM was unable to hold to a 1-3. Pumas came out proposing, aggressive, bangers of goals, too long distance. Antuna playing like he's in the champions, my friend. Clearly saying, I want to make a difference on this team. Now, at the end, if you know that you're playing with America, don't go and do soft, silly plays in the box, my friends.
Soft?
No, here's the thing. Soft.
Bro went full rugby over here.
No. The first call, Carrasquilla grabs, yes, but then it's the America player that swings the body and pulls him down. That is the part that the ref sees. That's the part that gets sanctioned, and that is. But I'm not saying that they were,
Were they
wrongly called.
Were they penalty kicks? Yes
They
or
were
no,
penalty kills. They were penalties, yes. Soft calls, in my opinion.
I don't know
In
about the
any other
first
game,
one.
they don't call those penalties. Pero es América, y a la América se le ayuda porque si no, no pueden.
¿Y a la América
But-
qué? Penal para el
But, my
América.
friends.
Question for you guys. We saw 2 amazing goals outside of the box that match.
Yeah.
It was the same with the Pachuca goal, for example. Valencia, beautiful goal. Yes, it was a 1-0 game, but that was a beautiful goal outside of the box. Why are we seeing so many further out strikes in this first leg? Do you think there's something about Mexican football right now, specifically something about the league, the style of play?
Yes, you know what? Something that I saw
That's something that I
yesterday-
just kinda connected, and I'm
yesterday,
curious. I was
something
gonna ask you.
that happened in the Toluca versus LAFC game that we saw a very young center back from Toluca, number 25. His name escapes my mind right now. Scoring a rocket from outside the box.
So
what
many.
we're seeing is that now teams are pressing higher. Center backs that are, they have great shot outside the box. They are allowing these center backs to go further in. They're playing outside the box on a diagonal, and there always you'll have one of your strong center backs putting one of those big shots. Your holding midfielders have the opportunity to be outside the box, taking advantage of the scramble in the box. So I think that's something that's happening there.
And just like that, just like he described it, that's how Chivas is going to score 2 goals and Tigres in advance to the semifinals of La Gloriosa Liga MX. They play this Saturday in El Akron, en el mejor estadio de México. And yeah, it's a 2-0, but I also believe que el 2-0 es el marcador más engañoso. So that's why I think that Chivas can still make it to the semifinals. They're not dead. Tranquilos, que todavía están vivos.
Now, we're almost done in this segment, my friends. We'll be right back. But before we go, I want to hear some interesting props that you guys have for this. Scores, players to score, corners, the over, the under. Give me 2 preps. Give me 2 props, Nick.
You're not going to like this.
A ver.
You're not going to like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that what we're going to see between Pumas and America is going to be a very low-scoring game, so I would bet under 2.5 goals.
Okay.
It's going to be very defensive on Pumas' side, but I think that America is going to come out on top.
Ay, no quiero
You're not
hablar
going to want to
contigo,
hear
Nick.
that. But put your money on America and low goals.
You're cut off. Chiva, please, tell me something that I like more.
Look, I think that for the first time in 5 tournaments, we're going to see a new champion. Toluca and America are going to be eliminated. And of course, Las Gloriosas Chivas del Guadalajara are going to advance with a 2-0 game versus Tigres.
There you go, my friend. And for me, I recommend the over on the corners on every game because this is the final game of the series and games are going to go out and attack. And us, we're going to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching LatiNation Football Club. What up, my friends? We are back here on LatiNation Football Club, and it is time to break down Liga MX Femenil with the Gen Z squad, Alex Crespo, Camila Ortiz, y un servilleta, Marcelino Ortiz. And, my friends, Liga MX Femenil right into the semifinals. Se está poniendo buena la cosa, my friends. Unfortunately, no more LatiNation teams in the competition. No Juárez, no Tigres. They were shown terribly and horrible por las Diablas del Toluca. But let's talk to the expert, Camila. What are the takeaways from this first round of the playoffs of Liga MX Femenil, and what can we expect coming into the semifinals?
I mean, this was such an exciting quarterfinal. Surprises, Tigres out, Juárez out. The champion, the reigning champs, are out, meaning that a new team is going to take the championship home. We have a lot of exciting games. I don't know, were you guys able to catch the quarterfinal games?
I was watching that Tigres-Toluca game on LatiNation, and my friends, let me tell you, I was ashamed.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we have América Toluca going into the semifinals. Who do you guys have for this first leg of the semifinals?
I mean, we have to take it with Toluca. This is a team that, they started off, más o menos, and then they picked it up. So I think I have all the faith in them, just like the men's team. The women's team are showing that estamos ahí.
I mean, Toluca, definitely made a statement, beating Tigres 4-2 throughout the two legs. But this is definitely more of a Cinderella run, because when you look at América, they have made 3 semifinals in a row, losing in the last 2. So I think, I've been saying it since the beginning of the season, they want it. They have that hunger, and they've played like it, I have to say, for the whole season.
You really have to bring up
América.
Tigres.
Not only that, I never thought
sorry.
in my life that I would be hearing those words coming out of supporting
I mean, with
América.
top players.
She's the top team. Yes,
Yep.
yes, they are the top team. Whatever.
Pero nunca la América.
Nunca la América.
Okay, bueno.
No, let's get serious on this, because the reality is that we have a beautiful top 4 of teams that were consistently the best in the tournament. But América, Pachuca, and Las Rayadas de Monterrey consistently, from the first match day through the last one, they were the top 3 dogs.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely excited to see this Pachuca team play, because when you have players like Shalin Corral, you're going to expect goals. And not only that, you're going to expect many goals, because she has been so on fire this season. And va a ser goleada.
I'm actually interesting that you said that, because I think Monterrey, it's going to be a blowout. I mean, in my opinion, humble opinion, with players like Lucia Garcia, who scored a hat trick in the quarterfinals, she's on fire. And I think they lead all 4 teams with pedigree. They have 4, finals, championships under their belt.
I love what we're seeing in Liga MX Femenil, because what is letting us know is that there are systems in place in Liga MX for when you see the men's side of these teams grow and becoming champions, bicampeones como el Toluca, and then you see the female team of Toluca getting into the playoffs, making a name for themselves. You see the same with América, you see the same with Pachuca. Rayados, in this case, las Rayadas respondieron, and the men were terrible this season. But institutionally, in the big picture, this is the beauty of aligning men and women's soccer through the same clubs. The resources are shared. What we're seeing in NWSL, and we'll talk about it in a minute, is that support sometimes it's even kind of looked upon.
Definitely.
Those teams that are associated with a men's team, they're like, oh, you're getting help there.
Yeah.
We're doing it on our own. So it's cool to see that in Liga MX is working, and the format of Liga MX has proven to produce some of the best players. Now, Camila, prediction time. What are going to be the results for these 2 semifinals? Let's start with América. Break it down. Give us a specifics.
América Toluca. This is really hard, because for me, even though I've been raving about América, and I think at the end of the day, América is going to take the win, I do want it for Toluca. This is their first ever championship if they get this. This is monumental for the club. I always root for the underdog, but I think it's going to be close, because Toluca did prove that they can go against top teams like Tigres. So I think it's going to be first leg, maybe a 1-2-1 match for América.
¿Le vas a la América, Crespo?
No, nunca. Lo único que sé es que nunca iré al América. Entonces, I'm going to have to go with Toluca in this, because, it might be their 3rd consecutive semifinal, but vamos, siempre contra
Here's the thing.
Siempre contra el América.
Toluca found a way to dispose of the champions of the tournament. A team that has scored up to 9 goals in one single game, and Toluca was able to neutralize that attack. The Tigres players were completely taken aback, surprised that Toluca was, disabling their attacks so well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Toluca give us a big sorpresa y despacha a las Águilas del América. Now let's go to the other side of the bracket, my friend. Pachuca contra las Rayadas. Rayadas is a tough team, the last representative del norte del país, versus a team that is probably one of the best, most serious institutions in Mexican football, El Grupo Pachuca. What's your take?
This is really hard. I think this is going to be a much closer game. You know, when you compare the two semifinalists, this is two teams that are really going to go head-to-head. I think you're going to see very little margin of error for both of these teams. I don't know. Alex, go first. I have to think about this.
I mean, I think it's going to be Pachuca. I'm going to go against Cami because I know she's going to say Rayadas. But with Natalia and Charlene Corral in such good shape, they're going to be the dynamic duo in this match, and they're going to...
Just because you said that, I'm going for Monterrey now.
No, good.
Just because you said that.
No, but let's put some facts behind this. Now, Rayadas has some special players. Camila, give me a couple of names that people should be zoning in this upcoming semifinal.
Two top players that you're going to have to keep your eye out. Even if you're not looking for them, you're going to see them on the field. Lucia Garcia and Marcela Restrepo. These are two very strong forwards, and that's why I think Monterrey is going to take the cake.
They have everything, Crespo.
I mean, I think it's going to be a very sad week for Cami. I mean... We've been through this before, and they call me Grupo Crespo for a reason.
Okay, we'll wait till next week, and we'll see. Remember, this is one of 2 legs.
That's right,
so whatever happens, already this weekend, we saw some really big changes. You know, champions, other playoffs, anything can happen.
I'm not betting my beard, though. I'm not betting my beard, I'm sorry.
No need to bet anything on this game, my friend, hasta que lleguemos a la final. Si hubiera llegado Tigres o Juárez, maybe we'll the game. But we are proud of the run that Tigres and Juárez had in this tournament, Clausura 2026. They represented LatiNation proudly, and they'll be back next season for más, my friends. Now, La Liguilla is a special tournament, and what we're seeing is some of the best soccer in the world. If you are not familiar with Liga MX Femenil game, you are sleeping, my friend. These are some of the best players in the world. You will be surprised. You wouldn't imagine that some of the best players that will represent their countries next year in the Brazil World Cup, they are in Liga MX. So my friends, don't go anywhere. When we come back, más football. We're going to talk about NWSL, porque la liga se está poniendo caliente, y mucho más. You are watching LatiNation Football Club.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like
to test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number one, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. And by the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
¿Qué tal, amigos? We are back here on LatiNation Football Club, and we continue with this exploration of intercontinental competitions. Y vamos a casa, mis amigos. It's time to talk about CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yes.
¿Estás triste, Chiva?
Why are you so happy?
Because LA Galaxy's not even in it to lose anything, so I'm
So
sure.
you're cool. You're chilling.
I don't get pleasure out of watching you guys lose. I don't.
No?
No, it doesn't make me happy.
Well,
Thank you.
If that was the case, you would have a lot of fun yesterday because LAFC,
why don't
like
you
we
guys
had been previewing, was disastrous yesterday. Nashville, disastrous against Tigres, and now we have the final in CONCACAF Intercontinental tournament, and it is two Liga MX teams, los Tigres de LatiNation versus los Diablos del Toluca, an all Liga MX final, reinforcing the idea that MLS is still behind Liga MX. We might be a little bit, coming out of top on Leagues Cup because we played the whole thing in the US, but now that we have to go play home and away, we see the true colors and the reality of MLS. We cannot hang with the big boys of Liga MX. Se los dice un fan del LAFC. My team had nothing to do yesterday against Toluca. The team was out of shape. 30 minutes into the game, you could see Son, a world-class player, ready to go to a World Cup, panting and breathing through the mouth at the 30th minute. This is ridiculous. Now, saving grace, they were forced by MLS, like we mentioned, to play on Saturday or Sunday against San Diego and then do a travel. Terrible decision from the league, but the reality is that you have to show up, you have to go, and then, Chiva, I'm going to let you go and drill this one home because, my God, Buanga has proven that if the game is big, the player is small.
I don't know about that one. I don't agree with you because the only one that actually showed up was Buanga. Even though he was playing on the right when he usually plays on the left. You blame Tillman. Tillman, man. Like, he has 0-0. He has the opportunity to score the 1-0 for LAFC. Open goal, nobody, no pressure, no goalie, and he misses that opportunity. It's just unbelievable. But now, speaking of the whole thing, no excuses. Toluca did what they're supposed to do. They came out hungry. They wanted to be in the final. They outplay LAFC. Dos Santos look bad. I think the substitutions that he made, Nathan Ordaz has been doing really good. Martinez has been doing really good. They were both on the bench. Nathan didn't even come in. He'd rather play Abobasi. I mean, so many things that we can talk about, but at the end of the day, we lost. But let me tell you something. When you're a true fan, you always wear your colors. You don't hide. You don't put it abajo de la cama como los americanistas que cuando ganan salen de la alcantarilla. Or, los del Atlas, they lose and they don't even wear their jersey. But anyway, I think that the fact that we lost versus a team versus Toluca, it's something good because Toluca is el bicampeón del fútbol mexicano. They're a great team with a great coach that cries too much, but he's a great coach.
Now, before we go into the whole brouhaha that happened in the press conference where Marc Dos Santos said that they had, one needs to have class in victory as in defeat, and he did not appreciate the clownish behavior of El Turco Mohamed. Maybe he's not familiar with his game. We know El Turco for a long time, and this is very normal in El Turco.
But just like Turco doesn't know about the culture that we have with LAFC, because Turco was mentioning that we were celebrating dando la vuelta olímpica. Turco, it doesn't work like that, my brother. It's not always like that. It's about LAFC. They do that every single game. The players go around the stadium thanking the fans for being present, not celebrating.
Now, LAFC is out of the competition. Toluca, for me, is not the favorite to win the final. I think Tigres has the momentum. They've been improving in Liga MX. They've been improving in CONCACAF. They had a bad season. And you know what momentum is.
Yeah.
When a team starts low and then towards the end they hit up, normally that's an edge for them. What do you think Nashville lacks to be, a team that makes it to the final?
Creativity. I think they lack that kind of creativity that we're going to see from the Mexican sides. And I think that's sort of the bigger picture that we're talking about here. What we're getting as MLS fans, me personally, a humble reminder that Liga MX squads are still the favorite. They're still stronger. They have that history. They have that legacy behind them that these squads might not have. And it's kind of showing right now. As much as I am a Galaxy fan, I love Galaxy. I don't want to see LAFC win. This is the same squad that knocked us out, but Toluca clearly the stronger squad in that matchup between you guys, as they were with us as well. And I think this is a nice little humbling moment for us, or at least for me as only an MLS fan. I don't have a Liga MX squad. I'm from here, so
Didn't you say ¿Qué está pasando?
Well, that's what they've branded me. You know, America's sort of like the Galaxy of MX.
Yes, you're right about
they have
that.
the most championships. They're the most decorated squad.
We've
in
created a
MX,
monster
but they barely squeezed into the playoffs. I'm hoping the Galaxy will do the same. So there's that little
Connection,
thing,
yeah.
that little connection. But I don't care about America. They can do whatever they want. I hope you go through against America. But yeah, so that's kind of my take. I think Nashville needs to be creative. I think they need to open things up and remember that this is not MLS. You got to show up.
There you have it, my friends. That is the CONCACAF report. Tigres and Toluca will play the final. Don't go anywhere. Todavía tenemos más fútbol right here on LatiNation Football Club.
We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March, so some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note too, DraftKings and FanDuel were only active for about 12 days.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We are back here on LatiNation Football Club, my friends. I am Marcelino Ortiz, and I'm here with Nik Z y El Chiva Mayor, and it is time for us to break down one of the most important soccer tournaments in the world, my friends. I'm talking about the Champions League, La Orejona, and we have a final, my friends. Tenemos finalistas, and I have to come clean with a mea culpa. I was wrong, completely wrong. I supported Atlético de Madrid for weeks without end, saying that they will be the champions, y me la tragué. Esa es la verdad. No se pudo. Arsenal was a very intelligent team that came out and just put that lock, found that lonely goal that moved them on to the next round. Y el Cholo Simeone, for as much charisma, for as much attitude, has only been able to deliver one single trophy of 40 possible in 10 years in front of Atlético de Madrid. Griezmann goes away of Atlético de Madrid. Probably Julián Álvarez also leaves Atlético de Madrid. This is the moment for a new era for the team. It's clear that in its current form is not able to compete at the highest level. Always in the top four, always the third darling of the Liga, pero al final hay que ganar, papá.
I think this was a pretty expected outcome, though. Yeah. I don't think I had as much confidence as you did necessarily. I've been watching an absolutely flawless Arsenal devour each and one of their opponents to this point. It was a tie in the first leg, and we thought, okay, this is going to be a head-to-head matchup, but Arsenal outsmarted them.
Without a doubt.
Now, you mentioned all these 40 trophies for El Cholo Simeone. Is it time for Cholo to go?
I think so. I think that is a moment for them to have a new idea in the team. The foundation is there. Maybe Cholo needs a new challenge, but at the same time, it is hard to part ways with someone that has put the team in a place, to be honest, of a competitive team.
And this is not a bad end to a Champions
we're talking
League
about third
run.
place,
Like,
the
this
third
is great.
best team in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about high level, but at the end, when you're there and you're continuously not winning trophies, maybe something needs to be done, right? Like maybe there's something to change to
You
get that
remind me of somebody that coached LAFC back in the day that, he was there, but he didn't win trophies.
You gotta win the trophies. If you're in a big team, you gotta win the trophies. But now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of these two series. Let's start with Atletico versus Arsenal. Clearly, Arsenal is a superior team. Number one, the first place in the group stage, undefeated, the best goal differential. They were los meros amos, como dicen los españoles. We see now that they're going to face a very dangerous team, PSG, that was able to defeat Bayern Munich. The Bayern Munich of Luis Diaz, that we all thought that there was no way that Bayern didn't make it through. We saw PSG surprising again as the best visiting team. PSG scored at least 2 goals in every away game that they had up to this last game, that they were able to score only 1.
No.
What is wrong with Atletico de Madrid? What can they do better to make it to that last?
They need better players. I mean, they have the coach. I think they don't have they've never had an enough team to make it to win a Champions League. Sorry, I'm still thinking of LAFC. My bad. Yeah, that's what they need. They need better players. I think they need a stronger squad. Now, speaking of Arsenal, Arsenal 2 weeks ago they were struggling. La Copa was almost gone. Manchester City was getting very close. Well, now they're in the Champions League final and they're also in first place in England. This is gonna give them esta fuerza to play against a team like PSG that we all think are the favorites.
Historic moment for Arsenal to come back to the Champions League. It's been decades since they've been in this instance of the tournament. Nick, what can we expect from Arsenal going into the final?
It's going to be really hard to break through this beautifully tactical Luis Enrique squad that he has built. He's also, if we talked about Arsenal outsmarting Atletico and playing the more strategic game, this is going to be a very strategic matchup between the two sides. I do want to say something, though. If you go on LatiNation FC's Instagram, you'll see like a 30-second clip of me last week talking about how Bayern's going to come out on top. They're going to get that edge. Now, technically, I'm wrong. Like, you were wrong about Atletico Madrid, but what I did not see happening was some serious flaws, and I'm not complaining because I'm not like a diehard Bayern Munich fan, some serious flaws in some of the calls that the refs made in that match that gave, I'm just saying, the penalty that everyone's saying should have happened because of the handball, you could say, okay, that's not a penalty. But the yellow card, what should have been the second yellow card, the clear handball when Bayern was on the attack from the PSG defense, clear handball, clearly had the advantage, and that would have swayed things the other way. But just like Pumas and America, we could talk about the calls, right? But at the end of the day, Bayern didn't play as strong as PSG. So my predicting skills might not have been perfect, but I did not foresee something like that. So I just want to defend myself.
Crazy.
I'm
Now,
still wrong, though.
There's one word that we have to say because I think it's the difference maker.
Yeah.
Dembélé.
Dembélé.
In line to win its second Ballon d'Or in a row. I think we're entering into the golden era of French football.
Yeah.
This is a reality. France probably with the most stacked team at the international level. PSG demonstrating that the French football can hang. Not only once and it's like a fluke, they had a great season. No. We're seeing that they're back on the final. Back-to-back finals on Champions League. Es para grandotes. This is not something that just happens. This is for teams that are well put together, that they know how to fight through 70-plus games throughout the year. Chiva.
No, to the point that Luis Enrique, the best coach now, today, took out Dembélé, their best player, at the 62nd minute, if I'm not mistaken. That shows you how confident he is of his team and that it's not about one player, that it's about playing as a team. And now they're in another final.
Now, prediction time, my friends. Let's help you out. If you have any interest on putting a little oomph to the game, what are our predictions on this massive game? We have 30 days, my friends. 30 días, un mes, to get ready for this massive game. Probably one of the last high-octane games before the World Cup. What's your take?
If we look at these two squads head-to-head, I mean, it's a dead heat. I don't think there's any use looking at, the stats on this one. Go with your gut. Go with your feelings. Watch these individual players, the Dembeles, the Doués. I'm imagining higher goals on the PSG side. Arsenal tends to play a little bit more tactically behind, more defensive, more strategic. 2-0 PSG.
Now, Chiva, what is your insight?
Now, you just mentioned Arsenal hasn't been on this stage in decades. Just for that, I think that they're going to come out and they're going to win the championship on a 1-0, holding back Real Madrid style when they beat Liverpool. Having Courtois as a hero, well, this time it's going to happen with Arsenal. So, si quieres ganar money, Arsenal 1-0.
Arsenal 1-0.
What do you say?
PSG. My insight, my friends, is not so much on the straight-out result, but I'm going to tell you some interesting props that I think are going to hit. Both teams to score. I don't think there's a world where Arsenal goes into this game and goes out trying not to score. There's one single game. These teams have to go out and score. So I think that both of them will score. And another one that I really, really like for me is Dembélé to score. For sure we're going to see that. I have no doubt that Dembélé will score and win the Ballon d'Or with that. And finally, the corners for Arsenal. Go on the under, because like Nik said, Arsenal is not a team that is going to go and do volume of attack. They're going to be very target, very clinical, so I don't foresee them like overloading PSG as much as they're going to be very precise. So I don't think that they're going to have too many opportunities from the corner. Those are my takes. Now that we know, who are the big disappointments of Champions League? Who are those teams that had the opportunity to make it and they just kind of underperformed?
I'm laughing because obviously Real Madrid, but then on the other hand, you also have Barcelona. It has been years since they haven't even made it to a final.
Yeah, I would say every top-tier club, world-class club that is not a British club. This is clearly, we saw the round of 16 in the Champions League, 6 of those squads from the EPL. This is clearly an era where English football, with all the money, which we used to associate Real Madrid, Barcelona with, it's now the English Premier League that is clearly dominating here. So we're seeing a big shift, like a bigger shift, plus PSG, but you can't say that about the league in total. So this is like an era of English and like one dominant French club. Things are switching, and that's, I think, what people should think of as the bigger picture.
So my friends, don't go anywhere. When we come back, más fútbol, we're going to talk about NWSL, porque la liga se está poniendo caliente, y mucho más. You are watching LatiNation Football Club. And we are back, my friends, here on LatiNation Football Club. Nik Z y el Chiva Mayor y un servilleta Marcelino Ortiz. And it's time, my friends, to talk about one of our favorite tournaments that bring us together. Yes. MLS, my friends. We are entering into the second third of the competition. The first sample of games is in. We can say that now we have trends, that we know what these teams are playing for, and what are their ceiling and what is the bottom. Yep. So let's start with the table.
Yep.
At the west or the east?
East.
East. Let's do it. Because we have to talk about Nashville, New England, what is that? Inter de Miami. Let's start there, my friends. Inter de Miami is a team from Florida, and recently,
that don't play in Miami.
They don't play in Miami.
That's true.
But recently they opened a new stadium. Even has the Messi standing section. First time in history that a living player has a stadium on his name. But they haven't been able to win on that stadium. They had their Clásico this weekend, and they were winning 3-0. First half, it was all happiness.
Fiesta,
Miami,
carnaval.
finally they're gonna win. Y el odiado rival, Orlando, los Leoncitos llegaron y said, nanay, papá. 4 pepinazos. Tácata, 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 tácata. Chiva, what is happening with Miami?
No mercy. Honestly, I said it last week, put your money in Miami because they always beat Orlando. Man, I was surprised when I saw that result. After they winning 3-0, they came back. Maxime Crepeau, mi hermano, mi camarada, you know, having the game of his life versus Miami. Even though they scored 3 goals on him, he makes some crazy saves to keep Orlando on top and win this Clásico que le duele mucho. Por cierto, Crespo.
Saludos al brujo
Un abrazo,
Crespo.
hermano.
Speaking of Crespo, can we please at least acknowledge that Messi scored one of the most beautiful goals of his MLS career so far in this match?
The highlight of the day.
I think we should at least, if we're gonna dump on Miami, we should at least highlight that because that was an absolutely beautiful.
He should have come for 2 goals and make it 4-4, right?
Huh?
He should have come for 2 goals so it could be 4-4.
I'm just happy that we have a Florida Clásico now.
Yeah.
That's something
A
that
real
didn't
Clásico.
exist
That
in
is
my
right.
lifetime, and it's come out of nowhere, and now it's absolutely amazing. Clearly, you don't know who's going to win anymore. So that's
what you want on a Clásico.
Exactly.
You want MLS to have these rivalries that create el lore, ¿no? Como dicen los chavos. Without the lore, el juego no vale nada. Now let's move to more games porque there's glimmers. There might be hope for the Galaxy.
Hope over the mountain.
Like that, far
White
away.
cap of the mountain. LA Galaxy tying with the top team in the West.
Yeah.
Sometimes we were talking about this.
Let's celebrate this like it was a championship.
Sometimes the Galaxy just rises from the dead and actually shows up. We saw that last year when they came up against LAFC. They were dead last in the West. We played LAFC and tied 3-3. Everyone was like, what just happened? We were expecting to get killed. That's what I was expecting this time, but we tied. And guess what? Next tie is against another team we can beat, Atlanta. We are just outside of the realm of playoffs, so we are on the cusp, and I'm thinking we actually have a shot to make it to the playoffs.
So you're telling me now that Carson celebrates ties versus teams like Vancouver or LAFC? I mean, el más ganador, el que tiene más años, all of a sudden they only celebrate ties? Good for you guys.
Yeah, this is great. We are in 10th place, and I'm absolutely ecstatic because last year, this time, we had, I think, 0 wins still, and we were dead last. So, yes, we're still rebuilding. This is looking good for the Galaxy right now.
Now, let's talk about LAFC. You're dressed up to the nines, Chiva. I'm a little upset with the team right now, not too happy.
Me too.
But before we go to the CONCACAF Champions segment, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the heroics of the black and gold. They go to San Diego, forced by MLS, my friends, because I want to make a point. I want to say this loud and clear. It's incomprehensible. It's ridiculous. Es una payasada from the MLS to force one of the only 2 teams that you have competing for a continental trophy, and you force them to play a game that could be very easily rescheduled. These are teams that are in the same freaking state. They're 3 hours apart. The logistics is not a problem to reschedule this game. You have to support your teams in order for them to advance and go far in the competition. We saw an LAFC yesterday completely gassed. 30 minutes in to the game versus Toluca, the altitude and the environment was enough to destroy them.
Marcel, you said you were not going to talk about this game yet, but let's talk about Nashville because I see Nick making his faces. I think Marcelino was trying to say they should do the same for the MLS teams in general.
In general.
They should be, just like Liga MX should help their teams, MLS should do the same, and none of them did what they're supposed to do to their teams, and now both MLS teams are
eliminated.
Ciao, ciao. This is
without need. We're in like match day 12 of 13 of the season. We have 2/3 of the season. Why are we forcing these teams to play a domestic game that could be rescheduled in order to give them an edge against difficult freaking
your number one rival?
You have echoes of this same argument on the other side of the pond. You will see a lot of coaches, even in Europe, complaining there's too much football going on at once. Logistically, there's a lot of difficulties. Thank God Galaxy can't qualify for any tournaments outside of the MLS, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're good, we're chilling. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It could be done better. It really could be. I'm the first person, somebody who loves to watch the beautiful game, but I agree there's just too much going on at once a lot of the time, and it puts stresses on players, and it creates injuries, it creates fatigue. But question, back to LAFC, how much of this match was due to a little bit of fatigue that we saw in players like Son, Bouanga not necessarily showing up, stepping up? How much it was the coaching? What do you guys think?
A lot. A lot.
Where's the balance, that line between the coaching could have been better and the players not showing up?
Let me tell you this. I was promised by someone at the top of LAFC when I had a conversation that we're going to go back to the LAFC way. What is the LAFC way? Attacking no matter what, proposing the game, it doesn't matter where they play. Well, yesterday was the total opposite of that. And we will talk about that a little bit.
And you know what is painful?
More,
that if we go back to this game against San Diego on MLS, they're down 0-2 at the half, and they show that game. They go out in the second half, and they attack, and they score in the very last minute to get this tie, and then they go on Tuesday, and they sit back. But I want to go and see the standings of MLS before we go on a break, my friends. Check this out in the West, my friends.
Earthquakes, man.
Los Pitufos. San Jose Earthquakes topping the charts. Vancouver Whitecaps is still showing that it's probably the best homeless team that there is in MLS. LAFC climbing positions on third, sticking there on the top 5. Seattle, Minnesota, Real Salt Lake, Dallas, Houston, Colorado, and finally, rounding up the top 10 Galaxy. This is the beauty of MLS. You never know what's going to happen. Now, let's go on the East because Nashville continues to dominate the charts on that side. But surprisingly, New England Revolution silently putting together a campaign that has them on second place. That was crazy to see. Inter de Miami third place, and Chicago continues to be a surprise team in MLS. But we have to go on a break. Don't go anywhere. This is LatiNation Football Club. We'll be right back.
If you go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down, you ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like that.
to test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number one, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. And by the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
And we are back, my friends, here on LatiNation Football Club, and it is time for one of our favorite tournaments, National Women's Soccer League, my friend. That's right. This is crazy. Last week, we were here talking about these standings. We turned them on today. Complete, utter difference, my friends. It's like we are watching another tournament. Let's break it down, Camila. You're the expert. How surprised you are to find Portland Thorns in first place?
Listen, I'm surprised, but I can't say that I'm very surprised, right? They were a mid-table team last season, but that's the thing, and we talk about it all the time on the show, that we love about the NWSL. The fact that it can be anybody's game. Any team could win at any moment. That's something that we do criticize Liga MX for, because you see the same 4 or 5 teams dominating, but this is what I love about the NWSL. You know, with the recent transfers and the new juniors coming onto the team, we're seeing a big difference in these squads.
Without a doubt. Now, they were great games this weekend, big results that moved the table. But let's start at the bottom of the table with the expansion teams. Boston, a team that we were very hopeful for. It is starting to click in. Crespo, I know that you were checking that game this weekend. Break it down for us.
I mean, what other way to celebrate you being in this league than, you know, go against the other team that's going new into this league? We saw Boston versus Denver, which was such a back and forth game, first of all. But not only that, Denver was winning 2-1, and then Boston se puso las pilas. 2 goals in the 90+, and, you know, ultimately deciding that from the new teams, they might be the better one. But the table doesn't say so just yet.
I believe that was their first win of the season, actually.
Now, let me ask you this, Crespo, because I feel like it will help our viewers understand. You were watching the very last place of the standings versus a brand new team. What was the level of play that you were looking at? Were you watching a chaotic game where there was like lack of touch, lack of technique, or we are seeing a league where the bottom of the barrel is actually pretty high level?
I mean, I think with this game, we were seeing, you know, an equal match of drive, because not only that, this team was down a goal. And yet, even into the last minute of the game, they're still, you know, putting in the effort. So that means that they are slowly building that chemistry. I mean, it is still their first season, so we can't rush into them being like, expecting them to be all the way at the top or even like mid-table. Like, they're still a brand new team that's getting it all together. So I think that overall we could expect really good things from these two teams. It's just
we gotta give them some time.
Tiempo.
Some time.
What is the key, Camila, for these teams to actually gear and start competing?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at other really successful teams into the NWSL, I think one common factor seems to be like a leading veteran player from the U.S. women's national team specifically to kind of help lead, or, you know, even we look at players like Banda or Marta on Orlando Pride, these, you know, keystone players that I think help act as leaders. And because we know the NWSL is a very young league, right? It's full of young players who maybe didn't even play in college. So I think both of these teams are lacking, you know, a veteran player to help lead the pack.
Very good.
I have a question, though, because we did kind of mention this in the Liga MX segment. What do we think about both of these teams with the men's and the women's, you know, having different federations rather than, you know, being the same team like Liga MX, for example? Because we saw that, you know, they might be different, but, you know, maybe they still will support each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one of the main differences that we see between Mexico and the U.S. is the development of the women's game. Although Mexico has the infrastructure to create a professional league, I think culturally, women's soccer in the U.S. is so ingrained that it has grown in a specific market that might not align with the men, right? Like, because the women national team has been so successful and so popular in the country, you might see that women's sports
more popular than
actually
men's.
More popular for
say,
many years. It was more popular than men. So that has created markets and regional areas where the women game is very big that MLS might not be able to ever, you know, become a popular thing. So I think that that's one of the main differences, that here girls play at 5, 6 years old. The girls are going, you know, on the opposite side for many years, wrongfully. Soccer was called a girls' game, right? Like in the United States. So they have been doing the most. I think it's time to acknowledge that women have done the most for the growth of soccer or football here in the United States. It's them that have done it. But before we go, because we're running out of time this week, let's go down the list, my friends, because Angel City, that had us excited.
I know. They tricked us.
They're becoming the Cruz Azul of NWSL, my friends. They were like playing again, dropping to 8th place on the standings. Camila, 3 losses in a row.
This
yep. Oh, my bad. No.
I was just going to say, this is disappointing. As an ACFC fan, I mean, I feel like it happens every single season, yet I fall for it every season. These high hopes at the very beginning, and then it just kind of dwindles.
That's
I don't know.
right.
I mean, you're a ride or die for your team. You know, that's what really matters. But what I think is very surprising, that I'm almost at a loss of words, is Orlando, where I can't
12th place.
I don't even see them on the table anymore.
At
You
the
gotta
very
kind of
bottom.
scroll all the way down.
Surprises.
Where's Marta?
There you have it, my friends. Unfortunately, it is time to end the show. We are very, very happy that you were here with us, the MVP of LatiNation Football Club. But don't worry, we'll be here next week in LatiNation.
We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So they're like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all 4.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March, so some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note, too, DraftKings and FanDuel were only active for about 12 days.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.